Greetings YouTube, and welcome back to my channel, QueenTashaTV. In today's video, I am going to be going over my travel budget for my birthday trip to Colombia. So if you know anything about me, I am a frugal traveler. That's how that's how I'm able to travel. I like to travel on a budget and make the best out of the experience versus spending so much money, you know, for comfort. Actually, I take that back. I like to save money in certain areas so that I can spend more money in other areas, and also just overall have a budget luxury trip. So I went to Colombia for my birthday, and I flew into Cartagena, and I did 4 days in Cartagena, 2 on the front side of my trip and 2 nights on the back side of my trip. And then I spent 6 nights in Santa Marta, which is also on the Caribbean side of Colombia. I wanted to be by the beach, and these were 2 coastal beachish towns, and so that's where I wanted to go. Colombia came on my list of places to go for my birthday because it is budget friendly. There are hostels, the food is inexpensive, and you can get around and do a lot of things very inexpensively as a solo traveler. Ideally, I wanted to go to Jamaica for my birthday, but Jamaica is not a budget friendly place to go by yourself. If you're there with at least one other person, which was what I was trying to do, then it would be a little bit more budget friendly. But yeah, so because I ended up going solo or planning the trip solo, I decided to go to Colombia. It's been on my list of places to go and visit, but it wasn't somewhere I really wanted to go for my birthday, so it kind of made the trip bittersweet. So the first way that I saved money was on my air travel. So first off, I thought I would never do this again, which is fly Spirit internationally. But I decided that for budget reasons that it was the most cost-effective way to go. But also, I decided to do a no bag challenge, which means no check bag and no carry-on bag. Spirit charges you for both now, and so I did the personal item challenge, which was getting a backpack that was personal item size approved, which is 18 by 8 by 8, I believe, which is this backpack right here, which came in clutch. It's a full open backpack that came with packing cubes, and I was able to fit everything that I needed for an 11-day trip in this backpack. I also had my fanny pack, that I have, you know, my important documents, a few snacks, you know, I keep my phones and just like little things in here. And then I also had this bag, but I had this bag inside of a Chick-fil-A bag. This mainly just held, I brought some of my Oracle cards and a journal and another journal, so it was like just a couple books, and my tablet in here. But because I didn't want to have an extra bag that looked like a bag, I had this inside of a Chick-fil-A bag at one point, and then also a Qdoba bag which I ate at the airport. But that's a travel hack that I found out about on Instagram, is like, if you need to have an extra bag, there's all these different ways, and that having a an airport food related bag, and just putting your stuff inside of that, they won't question you. So those were the bags that I brought, and that allowed me to not have any baggage fees on the trip. Because if you're gonna fly Spirit and then still pay for bags, you might as well fly with Delta. Like I mean, I feel like it's still, with all the little nitpicky things that they charge you for on the back end after the flight costs, you might as well just like go to a regular airline. So yeah, I flew Spirit. And I also, so I flew out of Orlando to Cartagena, and that's what my flight was scheduled initially. And so when I started doing all the RV stuff, which I have a video explaining that, traveling from Florida to Ohio to deliver the Purple Palace to the new owner. And because of that, I didn't want to have to drive back, and so that meant I had to fly back to catch my flight out of Orlando. So I had to buy another flight, which I flew with Frontier from Cincinnati to Orlando. So those flights, so the Spirit airline flight was $245, and the Frontier flight round trip, both round trip, $78. So total for airfare for that trip, I spent $323.94, which is pretty decent to fly internationally. That's how I saved money on my air travel, which was flying with a, what I call, bootleg airline, and making sure I didn't travel with or pay for any baggage fees. So number two, or the second way that I saved money on my trip, was with my accommodations. So I stayed at 3 hostels that were all really affordable and nice. Like, they were like budget luxury, in my opinion. And and then I stayed at one hotel, really nice hotel, and I had a hotel suite for my birthday. I booked everything on booking.com. What I like about booking.com is that there's options to not have to prepay, and what I like about that is it allows me to have flexibility once I get to the country. If something changes, I can cancel it without being penalized, and or I didn't prepay, so I don't have to worry about trying to get a refund or trying to do any of that stuff. So that's why I like to use Booking. This is not sponsored by Booking. But there's a lot of ways to save money on Booking. They always have little deals and stuff like that, and I feel like they're probably getting the best prices on there, because you can even call that place and ask for that discount at the hostel or whatever, because they'll honor it, because they're also sharing that discount with Booking, so they're making less money on it. So that's one thing that I found out. But so the first hostel that I stayed at was in Cartagena. I wanted to get something that was in the city central area so that I could walk around, and something that was not too far from the beach so that I could hit the beach in Cartagena. And I stayed at the República Hostel Cartagena, which I give. And that stay for 2 nights, I stayed 2 nights from the 1st to the 3rd of my trip, and that was $39.24 US. That room was a multi-bunk. I want to say there was like maybe 8 or 12 bunks in there, but it had its own private bathroom, and it came with breakfast, and all of the accommodations that I chose came with free breakfast. I wanted to do that so that I would save money on food as well by having that included. So the things that I checked on Booking was free breakfast and a pool. And these are the things that I was able to get away with. So that hostel I would give a 9 out of 10. It was really nice. It had a pool on the lower level, and then it had a tiny little pool that seemed like a hot tub because the sun was hitting it most of the day, so it was like warm. But it was like a little small dipping pool on the rooftop where they would do yoga and different stuff up there. And it was thoroughly cleaned and checked up on, and yeah, I enjoyed myself. It was right in the center of everything, so I was able to walk down into the center and go to museums and just like tourist attraction type things, and then it wasn't too far of a walk to the beach as well, and shops and things to like get water and stuff like that. So that was the first hostel that I stayed in. So from there I went to Santa Marta for the first 6 nights of my trip. And first I stayed in my birthday suite, which is the Jardín del Decupe Hotel Boutique, which was like such queen vibes. Like there was crowns everywhere. They had their own little emblem that was like metal, not carved, but metal symbol everywhere. And it was my room, just like, it felt like my grandmother's house a little bit, but like it was like this big huge room, big old king size bed. It had like, it was two bathrooms, but like one bathroom had a big old jetted soaking tub shower combo with a sink, and then the other side had the toilet and the sink. So, and then I had a little fridge that was stocked with stuff that you could pay for to use, but I chose not to. And yeah, I stayed there for 2 nights. That was so beautiful. I wish I could have stayed there even longer, because it was really nice to have that private space. And I took baths both nights that I was there, because I got that room specifically because of the tub. So I had to use it. And that for 2 nights was $107.38. That was the most I spent on accommodations for the entire trip. But I had to treat myself for my birthday. So for the next part of my trip, I stayed 5 nights or 4 nights at the República Bahia Santa Marta hostel, which is in the center of Santa Marta. It's just a couple blocks to the beach area, and I stayed there for $36.65. So it was the cheapest accommodations, and I stayed the longest at that place. That was probably my least favorite place, only because the bathrooms were really far from where my bunk was, and I got food poisoning at the end of my trip, and like that was a struggle getting to the bathroom. Like having to go back and forth from my bed to the bathroom was a struggle. So, but it was a beautiful layout just in general, and then there was a restaurant connected to it. That's where they served breakfast, but also like you could order food from there. They had activities as well. That's another reason why I love hostels, because it allows me to have the opportunity to be social, and a lot of times they have planned activities that they do. And I went on a pub crawl at that one, which was really fun. And yeah, I picked that one because it was like right by the beach, and it had everything that I needed: the free breakfast, the pool, the vibe and the decor was really nice, and the atmosphere was nice. So moving on to the next and last accommodations, which was bringing me back to Cartagena for the last 2 nights. I stayed at the Hostel El Bando, which is literally like right around the corner. It's like 2-minute walk to the to the airport, and that's why I picked it, because I didn't want to have to take I was trying to limit my amount of ground transportation. But I stayed at that hostel. That was one of my favorite hostels. I was able to smoke at that hostel. And the food that they served at the restaurant, outside of the breakfast, was really, really good. And I got the like same thing like 3 times. I got some to take to go to go to the airport. But yeah, I got a private room at that hostel. I originally was staying in the bunk room, but I ended up upgrading to a private room because I just felt like I needed to have a private space again after still kind of recovering from the food poisoning thing. But that ran me $79.43. And again, like I said, all of them came with free breakfast, and the breakfast is cooked to order. Like, they have a menu of what it is, and you have like 2 options to choose from. But like when you come, like, they make your breakfast right there, and then they bring you fruit and coffee or tea, juice, and then it's usually like their traditional breakfast or of something of like a cheese, a bread, some eggs. Or I know like some of the options was like a cereal or a yogurt or something like that. But yeah, all the breakfasts were very, very good for it to be free, in my opinion, and cooked to order. So yeah, that was, so for all 4 accommodations total ended up being $262.70 for 10 nights of accommodations. So now we'll move on to my third expense and way that I saved money on this trip was like ground transportation. In Cartagena they had Uber, which was super convenient and very cheap for whatever reason. It's super, super cheap compared to here, obviously. But I was able to do Uber and taxis. I basically needed just an Uber from the airport to my hostel, and then from my hostel to the bus station to get from Cartagena to Santa Marta round trip. And then when I got to Santa Marta, they didn't have Uber. Somebody said they had the DD thing, which is like the Spanish Uber, but that didn't work either. So I ended up having to take a taxi. And so I took a taxi from the bus station to my hotel, and then again back. So all the rest of the transportation that I did was my 2 feet, which was free. I purposely picked places where I could be able to walk around and do things, go to eat and stuff like that, where I didn't have to take a taxi or Uber everywhere I needed to go. So for that, and then I took a bus from Cartagena to Santa Marta round trip. So the bus was $28.70. And what was cool about the bus is like they let vendors and stuff on the bus while you're going. It's like a 5-hour trip. And the vendors like have food and drinks and stuff like that, and they come and you just like pay them and they get on the bus. And I didn't know that's what was happening at first, and luckily I was sitting next to somebody that spoke English and she was explaining what was going on. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, and then for ground transportation between Ubers and taxis, I spent $54.51 for those trips that I was explaining before. And so total I spent on ground transportation $83.11. Plus here, there, plus like, you know, tip and stuff like that. But that was like the base for that. And no complaints really for that when it comes to ground transportation. It was really interesting to see how these big buses like drive on the highway and what we pass, and how the roads are to accommodate that type of travel, because I'm looking, because I'm an RVer, so I was thinking about bringing my RV down. Yo, I seen too many trucks and things like going off the side, flipped over. And I'm just like, how? The roads were pretty decent as far as the highways were concerned. The main highways that led from one place to the other, and then through the town and stuff, like the little towns that we go through. The roads were pretty decent. They were narrow. And what I noticed what the bus was doing was going in the middle of the highway when there was no cars coming forward, and it would get over into its lane. So I don't know if that's because it's like curved like this, and you can't really see it maybe, and I don't know. But there was at least 2 or 3 large vehicles that were tipped over that we passed, and that was unsettling. So yeah. So the next thing that I did on my birthday vacation, of course I have to eat and do fun stuff. So as far as fun stuff, I did treat myself to 2 excursions and a massage, and then the pub crawl at the hostel, because there's some things you have to pay for at the hostel, and then or some activities. And so the first excursion that I did was in Santa Marta. I did a catamaran cruise that takes you out to Tayrona National Park, to like a little private beach that's on the Caribbean coast side of that park. And if you know anything about me, I know I've been wanting to do boat life. I want to do boat life after RV traveling and all that stuff. Like, it's my dream to like live on a sailboat and to sail around the world. And I've been watching this couple on YouTube for years. Shout out to Sailing the Vagabond. They got me interested in wanting to do it in a catamaran, and I had never been on a catamaran. I've seen them, I've passed by them in marinas and stuff like that, but I've never been on one. And so I purposely booked this trip because there was 2 boat options. One was a monohull and one was a catamaran. You paid a couple extra dollars to be on the catamaran, and I was like, I will go on that. And it was just so fulfilling to be able to just sail on it and see the different parts of the boat and just feel myself in it, because that's my next manifestation for real, and I needed to feel what it would be like. And it's very similar to what I'm living right now. It's just different angles. So yeah, I did that. It came with the sailing, it came with lunch. When we got to the port, it also came with like water and soda if you wanted it. And then they had a paddle board and they had snorkel gear, and they would take you out in the little dinghy to the area to do snorkel. I missed out on that because I just wanted to spend time at the beach. But I did do the paddle board for a little bit. I don't really enjoy paddle boarding. I prefer to kayak because I like to sit down. But that excursion was $65. And then when I got back to Cartagena before I left, I did a sunset beach club kind of excursion that came with a plankton tour, a bioluminescent plankton tour. So basically they drive you out to the islands. There's a couple of different islands. Oh, my battery's about to die. Oh, okay, where was I? So my second tour was back in Cartagena. On my last 2 days, I went to a beach club. It was a sunset beach club excursion that included a bioluminescent tour. So basically they put you, the guy came and picked me up and we took a private car to the beach club, which was about an hour away. So this was on the islands, islas of Cartagena, which take a minute to get to because the roads are not great in that area at all once you get off the highway. So I slept a good amount of the time, and there was some other people in the car with us. But yeah, so that tour, and then so we get to the beach club. It included dinner for the sunset, and you can sit wherever you wanted in the beach club. And they had some very aggressive like massage ladies. Like, they were trying to get me to get a massage, and I was just like, oh, I don't want a massage. I already got a massage It was mediocre. I don't want a massage on the beach. Like, I just don't want people touching me, and I don't like being hot and sandy on the beach and then having a massage. Like, I've done it before. It's not my thing. I prefer to be massaged in a spa, in a temperature regulated, on a sanitized bed. And Daria is back for her debut. Daria, I'm filming. I gave you guys treats so you would leave me alone. You don't care. So, as I was saying, we got dinner and watched the sunset, and then there was a boat waiting for us to take us out into the water to see the bioluminescent plankton. And I was excited about that because I've been wanting to see that kind of thing. The way they made it show in the pictures of the marketing when they sell you the tour is like that it's going to be like glowing neon, like alien style. And it probably would have been that, but where we went had so much light pollution. Like, we were by like buildings where they took us that had like bright lights blaring toward the location that we were at, and that made it hard to see. Instead of it being like a neon light, it was more like glitter. Light glitter in the light blue glitter in the water. But we got to get in the water and kind of interact with it to see how it would work, and that was really fun, and the water was really warm. It was just that they packed us all onto this boat, and the boat was tidy. I felt like we was like dragging through the water at one point. I'm like, yo, I don't want to be that packed with a bunch of strangers ever again. Like, that was too much. But that tour ended up costing me $21. And then on my birthday I got a massage, and I believe that was $30. And then I did a pub crawl that was $15. And yeah, that was what I did for excursion. So I ended up roughly spending about $130 on fun and excursions and stuff like that. Next would be food. So the food in Cartagena and Santa Marta, and just in that part of Colombia in general, wasn't a super fan of. There was a couple of restaurants that I really enjoyed, but they were kind of Americanized, you know, at least in my opinion. But the traditional Colombian dish, wasn't a fan. The seafood is not served with like a citrus, like a lime or a lemon, so I think that's weird as well. But I did have some really good meals, and the meals ranged between $6 and $8. Again, I didn't pay for breakfast, so I was just paying for lunch and dinner on most days, minus a few days for being food poisoning. But I spent roughly about $150 to $175 for food, for lunch and dinners for 11 days of traveling. I also did quite a few free things, like go to the beach and walk the beach that was close by. I walked around the city center in Cartagena and took some touristy pictures in different sites, and then also I went to a free museum that talked about some of the indigenous cultures and the things that they lend to the modern day culture. And I paid like $5 for a beach umbrella at one beach, just because the beach was free, but you couldn't really just like sit there without people bothering you if you didn't get one of these little beach umbrellas. And So when as far as money that I brought with me, for the cash on hand that I brought, that I used for souvenirs, for food, for a lot of the little excursions and stuff, the things that I paid for at the hostels that were like, you know, beverages or tips and things like that, I brought $200 in cash with me, and then I got $400 out when I did the exchange. So I was able to get the money out at the exchange place at the airport, which was recommended to me by a friend. Said don't bring so much cash with you, get it out when you get there. And they gave me a 3.34 currency exchange rate, and I was able to get that same exchange rate when I exchange the money back, because they take like your information so that you can exchange the money back. They said not to use the people out in the, you know, out in the towns. There are different like exchange places and things like that. They said use a bank or do it at the airport. So that's what I did. So I brought $600. I ended up coming back with $150 plus when I exchanged the money back, and that was after buying everything that I needed to buy and doing everything that I needed to do on the trip. So there could have been some more things that I could have did that I didn't get to because of the food poisoning thing. But I came back with money, and that's always a plus. So the total budget for the trip, and the budget wasn't made pre-going on the trip, the budget was analyzed after going on the trip, but trying to save money everywhere that I can, so that in the end, when I total it up, that it was a budget friendly trip. So with airfare being $323, accommodations $262, ground transportation totaling $83, food about $150 to $175, and then excursions about $130. So that all comes out to roughly $957 total for a 10-night 11-day trip to Colombia, where I stopped in Cartagena and Santa Marta for my birthday. And I think that's pretty good. $1,000 for one person for 10 days, I think is pretty darn good. And I was saving money in all different places that I could, but also treating myself to fun things that maybe I wouldn't normally do on just like a regular travel thing. But because it was my birthday, I had to, you know, be extra nice to myself. So yeah, that was what I spent to go to Colombia for my birthday. If you need any help booking any trips for your travels, hit me up in my email at QueenTashasEmpire. I can hook you up with some information on budget travel, and also I am working with a travel company to book hotels. But yeah, that's all I have. So I hope you enjoyed learning about how I travel and spend money while I travel. And thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Peace and blessings. I'm out. Why do I look shorter now? I don't know what happened. Somebody answer the phone. Can you hear it in the background? Shit. Quiet on the set. Everybody quiet on the set.